I think style is a very personal thing, but it's also a way to send a message to the world about who you are. It's a way to create presence, whether it's in the boardroom or if it's in the coffee shop, wherever you want to be. It's not just about matching a top to a bottom, it's about sending a message about your personal style and about your personal brand.
Have you ever met someone and you instantly connected and you didn't know where the relationship was going to take you? That is my experience with my guest today, Dianne Boyer. I'm your host, Natalie Benamou, and every week I bring you conversations like today to help you figure out what you want to do next and feel inspired by what other women are doing and imagining in every decade of their lives. And I'm also the founder of Her C-Suite, a portfolio career company where we have programs focused on helping you discover what comes next and being able to live your best life. I hope you'll check it out at hercsuite.com. Today's guest is Dianne Boyer, and we are going to be talking all about her background and interesting stories that are going to light you up and inspire you, not only about your career, but your fashion ideas too. So let's get started now. Dianne, I am so excited to welcome you to Women Leaders on the Move today. Thanks for being on the show.
I am so excited to be here, Natalie. It's going to be a fun time today, I can tell.
I want to start with a little bit about you. And you've had this interesting career. And I think when we think about careers, a lot of times we think they're linear. And sometimes we think we have to stay in the same category or vertical. Like I stayed in the same thing for almost all my career, but you did not. And you took these really bold moves. So share a little bit about that for our audience.
I've kind of had three main buckets, as I like to call them. So I started out pretty traditional, coming out of college and getting a corporate job. So I live in the Detroit area. So obviously everything here is automotive. So I came out with a marketing degree and got a job at General Motors and stayed there pretty much for 20 years. And during my time there, I did a bunch of different things. I even started out when I first got there, I couldn't get a job in marketing. So I worked in the business side of engineering, which ended up being a great tool for me because I learned spreadsheets and staffing and all those kinds of things that would come into play later in my career. And then I did get a job in marketing and worked on some high profile pieces like the Grammy Awards and the Country Music Awards. And I went to the Olympics. I ran with the Olympic torch. I had some wonderful opportunities and loved doing that. And then things changed in my personal life. And I met my husband, and he was a widower with three young boys. And so I decided to change and stay home and kind of bring the family back together again. It had been 3 years since their mom had passed, and I thought that was a really important thing to do. So I did that for 3 years, but I'm not the kind of person who can sit still and idle for very long. And while I love doing that, the professional side of me was calling and said, you need to maybe go back and do something else. So I kind of waited though to see what I wanted to do. And an opportunity came up, which was right up my alley and 10 minutes from my home. And it was working in marketing at a handbag company, a local handbag company here in Detroit. And I've always loved fashion. I didn't mention that because we're going to get to that, but that's been my love my whole life. So I started working there. I worked there for 12 years. And it was definitely a change working from corporate to a small business. And so that was a lot of things differently, but that taught me also how to think big and, do things differently without a budget. But after that, my mom passed away within that time frame, and I decided I wanted to do something different to honor her and to do something more in fashion, like full time. So I started a blog with my niece, Jen, called the Harper Girls. That's my maiden name, my niece's maiden name, my mom's name, and we did that for 3 years, and we did fashion at any age. So that was a fun thing. And then as things changed, my niece had another baby, and she works full time, so it was really too hard for her to continue. And I was like, well, I'm still not done. I still have work I want to do. And I said, you know what? I'm going to always want to do like styling and image consulting and that kind of thing. So why not? So I went and got certified as a stylist and then started getting clients. And then I booked a TV gig of where you and I first met. And that's been within the last year that I've really started working on that full time. It's been a joy. It's really been a lot of fun.
I hope for our listeners, they can hear how at any age you can create a future that is fulfilling. So, going to that handbag company and doing something that kind of brought together your fashion sensibilities a little bit. And it also gave you opportunities, like you had already paved the way a little bit, not a little, a lot at GM. Did that help you do some of the product placements that you got to do and other things when you went to that handbag company? And how did that serve you? How did you kind of translate? Because automotive and handbag are very different, but they're still a product, right? So how did you bridge that?
Exactly right, because there's still a product and you're still marketing a product in a certain way. And the opportunities I had at GM, with a huge budget and being able to do a lot of things and a support staff and agency to work with, but you still kind of learn what to do and how to do it. When I went to the handbag company, I knew how to market a product, but I really didn't have much of a budget. And so it made me kind of dig deep into like, well, I can still do the same things. I just have to be a little more creative on how to do them. So it was a lot more personal digging, and looking for email addresses for people. And I think I may have told you this story before. I wanted to be on Good Morning America. I wanted to feature our handbags on Good Morning America. And most people would say, this is a company of 10 people. How are you ever going to do something like that? And my philosophy is, what's the worst that could happen? Just send an email. What's going to happen? I worked on that for a year until, that actually came to be. And the company is still featured on that today. I've been gone there for several years, but they still have kept up that relationship. So it's just, you know how to do it, but how do you pivot and figure out a different way to do it within the resources that you have?
I love the persistence pays off because a year, most people would get discouraged after a couple weeks, but you hung in there. That is so fantastic. So that's another lesson for our listeners. Persistence pays off. Hang in there. Keep going.
And I kind of got this philosophy from a former boss that I had because he always said, what's the worst that could happen? And that's kind of how I picture it. It's like, so you send an email, so they say no. You're no worse off than you were before. And I figured no one's going to ever, come back to you and go, why are you emailing me? Leave me. People don't do that. So the worst thing that happens is you don't never hear from somebody. And that's okay.
People are busy and sometimes people don't respond, and it's not for not wanting to. It's like you think about it in the moment and then I end up texting you oftentimes because I see your email and then I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't send an email back. Let me just text Diane so I can tell you, so at least you know I'm thinking of you. So there's different ways that people can reach out and communicate. In the things that you're doing now, I'm wondering, how are you evolving with that in your business today? Because you became certified, if I can say, in your 60s, which I think is so admirable, early 60s, but nonetheless, you forged a new idea for what you wanted to do. And now you're reaching out and doing all these amazing things. So talk a little bit about what that's been like for you.
I think it's been a great example of everything coming together because I look at the fact that I worked in corporate marketing for 20 years and then I worked in fashion for 12 years. And then how do you take those two and combine them into a career in style? So, one of the things I always think about is my experience in the corporate world because part of my clientele is really professional women, women over 50. And I like the fact that I can say, I've been there. I've been in the boardroom. I've been making presentations. I've made presentations on television. So it's not just about, oh, I know how to put this top together with these pair of pants. I know what you're looking for. I know the message that you're trying to send because I lived that. I did that myself. It's more about presence than it is about style. And how do you do that? So taking that experience and then taking the experience from working at the handbag company and working in fashion and working in trends, I had assigned myself the trend guru position on my own, because all that, comes into play. It's not so much about, how can I be trendy? It's like, what do I do? What do I not do? How to pick the things that will last. And so I think becoming a stylist has really just been the accumulation of all of those experiences. And I'm hoping with the background that I have, I can offer different perspective, especially professional women and women over 50.
One of my favorite things that you said on our WGN segment is you said, it's not that you can't wear the style, it's how you wear it. You had fringe, for example, which was really fun and different styles that you brought in and each of us were wearing. And it wasn't that we felt old. I did not feel old in the least. And you even gave me an accessory pink bag. So I will have the link to our episode so people can see that because that was really fun and super nice of you. I think that's the idea of your mindset is, we can wear something. It's just I wouldn't wear a midriff, but there are other things that we can do to feel, current. So what are some things that you are suggesting now? Because you always have these wonderful blogs and what's the style that people can think about for today?
Well, I'll pick on the fringe because you mentioned fringe already, because I love talking about that particular one because everybody thinks of, like Cher in a fringed gown from the 70s or something like that. But there's so many different ways that you can do it. On the segment, we had Leanne, and Leanne had a dress with some just loose fringe at the bottom. It doesn't have to be the old, heavy leather suede, sleeves with fringe or things like that. We talked about stripes, and that's what you wore, but we kept the stripes vertical because we don't want to do the horizontal stripes. Jeans, I know that's a question a lot of people come up with, especially at this age with, barrel jeans and flare jeans and skinny jeans. Can I not wear skinny jeans? So it's just a matter of finding what you feel comfortable in. So there's not any real right or wrong answers. People will say, well, can I wear skinny jeans because, they're out? It's like, well, they are, but they aren't. If that's the look that you like, maybe you want to put on a trendier top or something that does make it look more modern. So it's about, mixing the pieces together. And if you try something on, take a picture of it. If you're even in the dressing room or when you get home, because sometimes you think, oh, something looks good and you look at a picture and like, no, that wasn't the look I was going for. I've done that to myself. I'm like, this looks good. And I'll take a picture and go, ooh, no.
I have an accountability partner, my daughter, who's 23, and we send each other pictures all the time. I'm like, this is what I'm thinking. And she'll be like, or she'll be like, oh, you should get that. And I'm like, really? So there's always like the pendulum swings both ways.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay, I'll try that, I guess. So we have to be open minded. And one of the things that people don't always think about, and I know you're going to do this at our Thrive conference, is color.
Yes.
Color has such an impact. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that is and why it's so important?
Yeah, and I'm literally like a few days away from being officially certified in color analysis. So by the time we get to Thrive, I will be ready to go. And I'm really excited about the offerings at Thrive. Color is something that just literally can brighten you. It'll brighten your face, but also can brighten how you feel. I mean, I look at you, Natalie, you're always wearing pink and it's a bright color. It's a great color for you. But I know it makes you feel good, right? Every time you wear it. And then there's certain colors, you can just tell when you put something on, and I don't like to pick on beige, but there are people that look fantastic in that color. For me, no, I look washed out. And then people, you find people go to you, oh, are you tired today? No,
Yeah,
I'm not.
that's so true. The color can make you look tired or, pale, or it just can wash you out.
And it can send a message too. I mean, there's a whole psychology around color as well. I mean, I like to talk about red because red has two different kind of meanings. It can be a very powerful color. You walk in a room in a red suit, you're saying, I'm here, I have the presence, I want to be noticed. At the same time, red actually literally can raise blood pressure.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I heard this actually a long time ago and part of the study I've been doing, but I had read one time that you shouldn't wear red to a job interview because it'll raise someone's blood pressure and they'll be a little nervous around you and they won't understand why and they'll attribute it to you as opposed to the color red.
So it's the person that's seeing you in the red, but not you wearing it.
Yeah, not you, the person who's seeing you, because red is kind of a warning. If you're standing in front of a room and you want to wear a red suit to make a bold impression, that's still okay. But the color psychology, blue is calming. There's a lot that goes into it. I find it fascinating.
It is fascinating. And I'm so excited because we're going to be doing another TV segment.
Yes, we are.
I'm so lucky to be able to do these fun things with you. So I can't wait. And I don't, we're going to talk after this. So I'll find out what color I'm going to get to wear.
Yes.
Stay tuned. We'll pop that in to the show notes. But if people are thinking about, and especially a lot of our listeners are women in our age demographic, what are some things going into the summer months that they can think about and feel good about their fashion? And what are some tips that you might give them?
I just did a whole blog post actually on wearing shorts over 50 because I know that can be an issue. We get to a certain age, and we talked about this actually in the segment we did together about our legs, right? We get to a certain age and we have some marks on them, things like that. So, whether you want to wear shorts or not wear shorts, and that's just one thing that's specifically to shorts, and I won't go into it in detail, but pick shorts according to your body shape, not according to your age. And I say this with a lot of things because I know a lot of people I talk to, they're like, well, I'm over 50. I have to wear Bermudas. No, you don't. If you're only 4'10", it's probably not a good idea. So one of the things I like to think about, especially this age going into summer, I like dresses. I think, casual dresses that can be long if you want to cover your legs, or you can even do a knee length dress. There's so many different styles that are out there today, even a nice denim dress. If one of my favorite dresses I have is a long sleeve kind of eyelet dress. So it covers like the arms, because I know arms are another issue, but it's still cool. You can still breathe in it. Maxi dresses, so they kind of give you an elevated look, but it kind of covers up some of the issues that a lot of people have at our age. And they're still fun to wear. You can dress them up, you can dress them down. I like wearing also like a crop pant at this time of year. And then I'm trying to think of what else, but and in color again too. This is the time of year that, I try not to wear black. I kind of try to take a break from wearing black. Navy is a great color if you're looking for that darker neutral this time of year. And then some of the other big colors right now are butter yellow that you've probably heard, pastel pink, and some of the light greens and sage greens are really popular. And I think we tend to take more chances in the summer for some reason. I don't know. I find I do. I'll wear a pink dress that I might not wear in January. So, one of the things I challenged myself to do, and I would challenge your listeners to do, is I will go like even into Macy's or something like that, and I will pick something. I'll look at something like I would never wear that. So, let me go try it on.
That's so fun. I love that.
I have bought things from doing that. I'm like, "Oh gosh, I would thought this would never have looked good on me or never suited my style." But it kind of gets you out of a rut because you tend to go in and look for the same pieces all the time. You may change up the color, or if you don't wear a double-breasted blazer, try a double-breasted blazer or things like that. And just go have fun. As I know a lot of people go in and just dread shopping, but if I think you go in it with a different perspective and just try different things, you might find something that you like.
Well, speaking of fun, we had a board readiness retreat and you worked one to one with each of the women coming in. And the backstory of that was we had done another retreat where we didn't have someone like you. And we were all looking at each other and we all had like, 7 jackets and random tops and borrowing each other's stuff. And here, can I have this? And there was nothing wrong. It was kind of fun. And it was in the moment, very in the moment. And after that, Naomi Kent and I talked about it. And I said, maybe we could do something a little more planned. And so you worked one to one, and the transformation was one of the favorite things that happened that weekend. You've seen the pictures, the before and after, but Jamie in particular, Jamie Platt Lyons went to Macy's
Yes.
and she got these outfits, beautiful dress with this long swing jacket and her pins, and you integrated all the details. And that's one of the things that I want to recommend to our listeners who are hopefully considering working with you is that you take into account all the details of the person. What is it that's important to her? And she has these beautiful pins, and you helped her figure out how to put those accents into her wardrobe with these new beautiful outfits and her demeanor. And she was so positive. And she said, oh, I did this. I'm so excited. And she just was lit up from the colors you helped her choose. So what was that like? What was that process like? Because you really worked with her.
Working with Jamie was, I mean, working with all the ladies was a blast, but I think Jamie had the most fun. I would put it to you that way. And she was very open. I think that that helps too. I mean, she was looking for ideas and looking for advice. I gave her some ideas and then she went out. I mean, she had a blast. She picked things that she normally probably wouldn't have chosen based on the conversation that we had. And then one of the things that we did, and you talked about the pins, and one of the things I like to do is, like, if you work with me, I'm not going to suggest you completely revamp your entire wardrobe. It's about picking some meaningful pieces and then integrating it with what you already have. So the pins that she had, and I believe the butterfly pins that she wore had been her mom's. So we took stuff that had some meaning to it. We took this new outfit, but I think the biggest part of that outfit for her was that she wore those pins that were her mom. And those are the pictures she ended up choosing.
Yes.
It's not a makeover. I think people sometimes, when you want to work with a stylist, they think they're going to come in and change everything about you. And that's not what I try to do. You tell me where you're struggling or what you're not sure what to do. And then we fix that, we work on that. And then how can we add things that you already have, that you already love? Because you don't have to throw, whether they say the baby out with the bathwater. There's a way to do both. And I think it makes people feel like, oh, I do know what I'm doing. I just need a little bit of help to, get over the hump, whatever it happens to be.
Well, the last question is going to be about our book together because that is coming out in the fall, but we are going to be kicking off our marketing. So you'll see little things that we're going to be sharing over the summer about this book. And I would love to know from you, how has it been to write a chapter in an anthology about this transformation? The title is all about freedom to define success. And I think that's what we've been talking about, not only in fashion, but also in careers. But what was it like for you writing your chapter?
When we and I first talked about it, I think my initial reaction was, I don't have a story to tell. There's nothing to tell. And then I started thinking about it and I started like writing it down. I'm like, I do have a story to tell because I think it wasn't planned. You look back at this age, right? You're looking back over a 40-year career and you're like, wow, I kind of did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. And getting that out on paper, made me feel good about what I had done. And then I always like to say, and that's why I love being a part of this book, is if you're going to go through things or you're going to learn things, it's really important to share with other people. Because what's the point of learning things if you can't help somebody else learn from it? So, one of the things I talk about in the book was all the different iterations of my career that I've had. That really, I'm at a point where it's really been a very joyful time for me right now, and that work can be joyful, that you can find things that you like to do, or even in being a stylist now, in talking about Jamie and seeing Jamie happy and excited, that means a lot to me, especially at this age, as we're transitioning. Back when I first started, it was all about, well, what can I do to get ahead? And how can I get promoted? And what can I do next? And how can I be seen? And over time, that kind of transitions is, how can I take what I've learned and help other people have a good experience in their career, in their life, in their closet, whatever it happens to be.
And I think that's the joy. I think you bring joy to people's lives now doing what you're doing. And I'm sure you did before. But personally, I experience it when I talk to you, when I see you, when I hear tips and ideas. And I'm just so lucky that I get to interact with you and see you and do things that are fun, that give me joy. So I am grateful for all the ways that we are connecting and finding ways to help women feel their best, feel like they can do whatever they want to do, really.
I think you and I met by chance, but I do think it was meant to be.
It was meant to be, two Michigander gals. So we had to meet. Well, I could talk to you all day, and unfortunately, I can't. But I want to ask you, for people that want to learn more and read your blog, because you have so many great tips. I always learn something when I read it. Where should they go to find you?
You can go to my website, which is dianneinstyle.com.
I will have that in the show notes. I can't wait to see you. I get to see you twice this month, which is amazing. So I can't wait for that. And thank you for being on the show today with me. It's been so fun.
Thank you, Natalie. I've had a wonderful time.
Thank you for spending your time with Dianne and me today. You can meet Dianne in real life June 25th through the 28th at our upcoming conference, Thrive in 2025. All of the information is in the show notes. You can schedule time one-to-one with Dianne, find out your colors, what fashion styles are happening for your style and taste, and more. Go to hercsuite.com, or you can also go to thrive-in25 and sign up and use her C-Suite, all one word, save 5% and be my guest. I can't wait to meet you in real life. And stay tuned, because later this summer, we're going to be promoting our book together that Dianne and I are doing. So I can't wait for you to hear more about that. And as always, keep shining your light bright. The world needs you.